Hi, this is Holly Bradford, and it's week 3, and I am submitting my video blog for informed consent. I looked at an informed consent from licensed professional counselor Amanda Moeller, and she's out of Maplewood, Missouri, and her business is called Counseling Strategies LLC. It's a private practice. My initial reaction was that it was a pretty lengthy and thorough consent form. Just at first glance, it seemed very detailed in the major sections that she included on her form. The first section described her qualifications and credentials. She included her specialization in giftedness, anxiety, and successful transitions. The second section was concerning confidentiality, sharing records with third parties. She made a statement on the form up front that is not her policy to testify in court disputes, which I thought was interesting. She then breaks down the specific exceptions: duty to warn or protect, abuse or neglect, professional supervision, medical insurance, child-parent communications, and court orders, and she explains those. The third section specifically addresses parents and requires a written signature of understanding. So it goes into HIPAA regulation, receiving a notice of privacy practices. She doesn't promise results, effectiveness of treatment, or length of treatment, therapy. She makes sure that it's clear that the client has a responsibility to pay for fees for services. The next section is all about financial disclosure, financial considerations, and the cancellation policy. She requires payment at the end of each session. She is not a member of any health insurance plan, so she doesn't bill for any insurances, but she will provide you with documentation that you need to be able to file a claim on your own, to include coding information and diagnoses. The next part of the next section, provides client rights and how to request, confidential communication, service without discrimination, the right to release your medical records, inspect and copy the records, the right to complain. The final section is a consent to treat, where she states that the client must take an active role in their treatment and acknowledge that. They're acknowledging that they understand the plan and they give permission to start treatment. So then she signs acknowledging that she believes the client is fully competent and understands and wants to begin treatment. So I felt like it was thorough initially, but once I got into it, there were some things that were missing based on the ACA Code of Ethics and the Missouri State Regulation 20 CSR 2095-3. She mentioned concisely that she takes a solution-focused cognitive behavioral approach to counseling, but didn't give detail on purposes, goals, procedures, limitations, risks, or benefits. She stated that there were risks and benefits, but she didn't elaborate at all on what the risk and benefit is of her therapy practice. Both of those are requirements of ACA and the Missouri State Regulation. She didn't include arrangements for a continuation of service if something were to happen to her, or if she became incapacitated. NatWic 2017 describes this as, not putting the client's needs first and deserting the client without offering alternate services. She didn't include anything about technology in her consent, which is an element of both of the guidelines. She didn't discuss the implications of diagnosis and the intended use of tests and reports. She discussed the client having the right to stop treatment at any time, but didn't discuss necessarily the right to refuse or a change in service or modality. Additional recommendations that she didn't include, like which code of ethics she prescribes to, theoretical orientation, philosophy, logistics of counseling process, expectations, video or audio taping. I found it interesting that she is a licensed professional counselor, but used the word therapist in her form. Prime example of, identity of practice issues. Overall, I liked her consent and I thought it was, but it was more focused on confidentiality and disclosure than really her scope of services. Thank you.